Butler with 3. Butler with 2. With 1. Butler against Matthews. Gets it away and no good. Do we have a foul? We do. A foul is called. And Jimmy Butler can win it at the line.
An exciting Game 2 in the Heat-Bucks series. Back-to-back daggers, unlikely heroes, and it all ends exactly the way we'd hope any big-time game in the bubble ends, Chiney. By a walk-off free throw.
Come on. It was all right.
It's just, you know what? We'll get into it. It's Chiney Ogwumike Jr. here on ESPN Radio, ESPN News. Mike Golick Jr., Chiney Ogwumike. Big news out of the NFL. Reports that Cam Newton has officially been named the starter for the New England Patriots. None of us really surprised here. Chiney, your side team answers a big question heading into the season. Got to feel pretty good about that.
I feel like everyone sort of saw this coming, especially with Belichick's comments saying that, oh, he's great, he's working so hard. So I think he was priming us for him being named at QB1.
Exactly. So no one's surprised by that there, but now we get to make it official. The Facebook status goes to in a relationship with Cam Newton for the 2020 season and the New England Patriots right now. We got to figure it out because it's complicated with these NBA refs across the board last night, but we got to start with the Heat and the Bucks game. So for anyone that missed it, down the stretch of the Heat-Bucks game last night, and I believe I've got this right, the final 2.6 – oh, no, this is a different game, sorry. But it felt like the final couple of seconds of this game took damn near forever. Just, I want you to listen, Chiney. You haven't heard these yet. The local radio calls for the end of this game, for the Heat-Bucks game. We'll give you the Bucks call and the Heat call on this one, back to back, just to show the level of confusion that took place in both of these ones. Let's go and start with the Heat here on the Jimmy Butler jumper that set up that final free throw that ultimately won the game for the Miami Heat.
Dragic into Jimmy Butler. Butler on the left side. Butler baseline. Step back for the win. And he is fouled. He has fouled Jimmy Butler. And he'll go to the line. Jimmy Butler got fouled. And a chance to win it at the free throw line with no time left on the clock. I have seen everything.
Holy smokes, Mike. This is crazy.
Are you kidding me?
That sound courtesy of 790 The Ticket. Now, here's the Buck sound on the other side, Chiney.
Jimmy Butler goes to work, drives, fades the shot. No good at the buzzer. We have got OT inside the bubble in Orlando. Are they calling a foul? Are they calling a foul? They've called a foul on the shot. They called a foul on a fadeaway. Wesley Matthews with just a little touch. Where's the foul?
That courtesy of WTMJ. Chiney, you can't call those in that situation, in any situation.
That is so funny. Oh my goodness, they called they called a foul. Like what? It's two different worlds that they're experiencing in the same time. That was a foul. Sorry to break everyone's hearts, but that was a foul. Because I know the ball had released, but if we're going to talk about landing space on one end, you have to talk about landing space on another end. And Giannis Antetokounmpo, he used Jimmy Butler to slow his momentum so that he wouldn't hit him. So he used that hand to slow the momentum. If he didn't use the hand, he would have probably clipped Jimmy Butler or like done something complete. Like it could have been a bad situation. So that's why he sort of guided him so that he can move out of the way. That was a foul. So, unfortunately.
Chiney, it's time for Straight Talk, brought to you by Straight Talk Wireless. That seemed like a makeup call because what we saw before that was a very clear instance of, and this was the disagreement that took place last night between Steve Javie and our own Doris Burke on the call, looking at a three-point attempt where one of the defenders attempted to, for the Miami Heat, close out on a shot and went straight up.
Goran
Dragic tried to go straight up on that shot. Here was the exchange between Doris and Steve Javie, by the way.
I think it's an excellent call. When Middleton is in his upward shooting motion, in my opinion, and obviously in Mark Davis's opinion too, he comes under him where now Middleton cannot land from his normal position on the floor. In this situation, difficult time to call it, but in my opinion, the right call.
I couldn't disagree with you anymore, Steve.
Doris.
Yes.
Snaps for Doris.
Snaps for Doris on that one. Both our teammates here, but I side with Doris Burke on this one, Chiney, as you do. And I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, that if the right call or no call is made in that instance, then we don't get a call on the shot on Jimmy Butler either, whether it's a foul or not in actuality.
Exactly.
I don't think they're blowing that whistle.
Exactly. Once you set precedent by blowing the whistle with the last two possessions, then you have to do it on both sides. Goran Dragic. He was sort of maybe kind of in the landing space of Chris Middleton, but he was there first, and he was vertical, and that's what they say. As long as you're vertical, and verticality is a word that they use a lot in the point of emphasis, you should be good. So that was, I guess, a makeup call, but it was more so consistency. And you know what's the funniest thing about all of this? This is one thing. Refs watch each other's games, and they hear from the grapevine of what's happening, right? The following game between the Rockets and obviously the Thunder, they were like, we're going to let them play. We're going to let them play. We're not going to get caught up like the previous game. So I do think that it was a consistency matter. And so many people say like, oh, if you need to call the fouls late in the game. Like, we hear you. And now they actually do it, and they're not keeping the same energy. That whole subset of people that are like, oh, call the fouls, keep it consistent, like play through the final buzzer. Now y'all say, let them play, no blood, no where are you guys standing?
I saw a lot of people say it last night. Letting players call their own fouls down the stretch of games would be a fantastic twist on all of this. That would eliminate a lot of this.
I don't know how that would work. I really don't.
I would love to see it. That's how I can
that
tell
would be
you.
fun.
It would or wouldn't work. But Chiney, as we look at last night's game outside of the officiating, which unfortunately took over a lot of those final seconds in a way that was a bummer to me for the body of the rest of the game, where the Miami Heat led most of the way. The Milwaukee Bucks were able to make it tight, obviously, towards the end, that led to this situation. As we look at Giannis now and this Bucks team in an 0-2 hole, is there still confidence? You and I were both believers that the Bucks would have talent will out in this one, but through 2 games, Miami looks like the better team.
Yeah, Miami has looked like the better team, and if it weren't for Jimmy Butler, who got lucky towards the end, but then remember, he said it was a low basketball IQ play. I forgot the right verbiage he used. When he was doubled on the sideline, you're told to never throw the ball back at the basket. Like, you'd rather heave it all the way on the other side of the court, have them sort of try to hit a full court, half court shot, than throw it towards the rim of your opponent. So that was a brain fart. Is that appropriate? Can we call it? Yeah, that was a brain fart by Jimmy Butler. So if you take that play out, they shouldn't even be in that position. Chris Middleton wouldn't probably be in that position. Jimmy Butler especially. So it was the dominoes of all of those things. You take those dominoes out, the Heat have been playing more intentional. Like, they've been playing like and we're talking about a Bucks team that was great at protecting the paint. Number 1 defense in the NBA. They have shot blockers between Lopez and Antetokounmpo, but the Heat is getting to the rim sort of not like at will, but like with ease. And I do think the Bucks were making strides late. Like, they started looking like a locked in team, but it was too little, too late, and then out of their hands.
And this was from a Heat effort, and we know it's the overall Heat team. Jimmy Butler is not a guy, usually like we saw last game. That 40-point outburst in Game 1 for Jimmy Butler was a bit of an outlier. It was a playoff career high for him, I believe, in that situation. But to get the kind of effort you got from, you mentioned Goran Dragic, Bam Adebayo doing all of the little things.
You saw
right.
my tweet?
It's unbelievable, and understandably so. Big fan of Bam Adebayo and what he does there. Straight Talk Wireless, no contract, no compromise. Lots more to dive into that series. You mentioned the other one involved there, your Houston Rockets, managing to pull it out against the Oklahoma City Thunder.
For our guest, I feel like he should have his own sound because it's a big deal, right?
This is true. A very big deal coming up next, because we got a newsbreaker hanging out with us here next. Our own Adrian Wojnarowski, the man who broke the Steve Nash news to the Brooklyn Nets hire, going to join us on Chiney Ogwumike Jr. here on ESPN Radio and ESPN News.
Today on ESPN Daily, dozens of female former employees of the Washington football team have now said they experienced